Martin? Right, okay. Well, when the little red hand gets to the top, we are on Swiss railway time. And we know the Swiss run trains on time and complain about the Germans who do not run them on time anymore. I don't know if they're drilling and cutting and so on. Is it worth trying to open a window?
I will try.
Let's try. I don't know, knowing our luck.
They'll start up as soon as you...
The moment you open, somebody starts to speak, it will be...
Yeah, this is bad. Now it's
Well, that looks quite quiet.
What's interesting, they're doing very little.
It is quite airless in here again, isn't
Doesn't it
it?
just? Doesn't it just? Right. Right, okay. Right, it's on the hour. First of all, no apologies. That's right. Do we have any declarations of interest?
No?
No? No, thank you. I sent some draft minutes out. I was trying to get things done quickly, but I have not seen the thing that was in the same email as the Deputy Mayor's dinner, so I didn't see the cut-off time. So my apologies that it's not on the agenda, but I will raise it under Councillors' reports.
Yes.
But anything in the draft minutes, thank you. A couple of people came back to me and I amended them, but unfortunately I had to cut off, just as I think, Martin, you were wanting to raise something. Right, and the minutes, are you brought
I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
all happy with the minutes? Thank you, then we're on the draft. Right, shall we get straight? The only other thing is for me to say at the STC meeting, I will just do a verbal update on where we are as per agreed in these minutes, and unless changed by any other discussion. But I will send them Appendix 1, which is the document map. In advance. I'll send that to all councillors this afternoon and saying this relates to the verbal update, because I think they need to see just how much detail and forethought has gone into this. I don't want anybody to think we're just sort of talking things through.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. Anything else before we continue?
No.
No? Okay. Shall we continue then? We got public participation.
Yes.
Do we have any members of the public who wish to participate?
As and when.
As and when, as per
Christina, will?
Christy, as per our existing arrangements, as you raise your hand, we'll bring you in.
Absolutely.
And we've got,
Thank you.
I think we've got a way of working now that if I spot it, I'll just give you a little hand signal. Right, thank you. Moving on, we are about to start public participation, I think was the place we got to, wasn't it?
Could I just raise one issue?
Yes.
In clauses 221 and 222.
This is in the version that
I think it's a version of
version 4. We're on version 4.
I think you will
Yeah, I
find.
think it's version 4A. I think I just did a little bit of tidying up, so I called it 4A.
Right.
The words "if there is one" in 221 should be in 222, because it says the chair of the council is there if there is one. Well, there has to be a chair of the council. It says the vice chair of the council if there is one, but that is what the statute says.
Yes.
And the if there is one is got in the wrong paragraph.
Okay. Remind me, it was
221, take out the words
Right.
if there is one,
Thank you.
and add it in
So-
the vice chair in 222. That's in there, that's all right.
Yeah, I've just done it, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Excellent. Thank you for
Really
that.
important point.
It is rather critical, isn't it? Yes, because, sorry.
Can I just interrupt? Christina, apparently San Matt's live stream isn't working at the moment. You've probably picked it up.
Actually,
Which,
it is, but what a person might need to do is to back out of the event and then go back in.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Do you want any of us to say that, so in case anybody is live streaming, hoping to watch
No,
it?
because they won't be
Well,
here.
Well,
Sorry, don't worry, I'll message the person.
I have just messaged another person, so we're both speaking to different individuals, I think.
Okay, so far we've got it, the two people who've raised the question, we have answered.
Yes, what's happening is it is recording and
Yes.
it will be available in the playback, but people are having difficulty accessing the live stream in real time.
Right.
So we're just trying to tweak that. But it's working, but it's the people coming in that are having access.
I see. Okay. Martin.
Sorry, a really pedantic point. Personal pronouns, which has been raised
This is from
as
now.
an issue.
Is he, she, they.
He, she, they.
This is now.
This is from now in bold.
Why do we have to put they when?
Well,
It's a pronoun you can use. Amazon.
That's just guidance. No.
I don't think it is. I think it's statutory.
This is from the statutes.
Okay.
I share your
Political correctness frustration.
your concern.
With the bold, we agreed at the outset that we would follow the NALC
We
model
did.
code.
Okay.
So we are following the NALC model code.
Yeah.
And they have it in bold because they say it's a statutory requirement.
There's your trail back.
So-
So, yeah.
We could go back to the legislation, but any means we're
Yeah,
not following
I've
the
got-
NALC model code.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can believe it is an issue.
Yes, I was a little surprised, but if that's what the
Yeah.
legislation requires,
Yeah.
then there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm all in favour of gender-sensitive
Yes.
text. When I was a chair, I always regarded myself as a chair, not a chairman.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lady who succeeded me probably called herself chairwoman. but that's beside
Ho hum.
That's okay.
Ho hum. Ho hum.
Right.
Okay.
So
We have
section
on to
5.
section 5, public involvement in meetings. And I've got my document that I put a lot of suggestions on a few weeks ago. Let's see. I mean, I think this is the one that's pretty critical for this council, isn't it? Because it hasn't worked very well in the past.
Well, you know, we've got this procedure document, protocol for public participation, which was approved in 2022. It was. A lot of what's in here
Yes.
is also contained in this protocol.
Yes.
Are we going to keep this protocol, or are we going to put it in here?
What's the view of the meeting?
I thought we were consolidating and making a single source of the truth.
Yeah. Well, I would like to see that.
I would certainly prefer that we have one
Yeah.
one
I
document.
would like to. So
Yeah.
this document will become
Obsolete.
obsolete.
Yes.
Yeah.
Righto.
Because you and I, Ian, have already made lots of comments. on
We
this,
did, yes.
Which I've got your note here, which you did.
Right. Let's go back in time, isn't it?
The early days.
Oh, yeah, early
I
days,
just
yes.
wanted to clear that point.
No, I think
I'd
unless
much rather we had everything in here
Yes.
to do with that.
yeah, I think we've got to say to the council that we really recommend you keep one document. They may of course see it differently,
Yeah.
but I recommend we keep one document and one document only, and that makes it so much easier to track it.
Yeah.
Let's get a pen and take some notes.
There you go. Here's one here.
Oh, thank you, right. Yeah, so it's been one document. Just take this back here.
Always prepared. We're always prepared.
It's nice to know most people like me to turn up and go, right, so replace old participation with standard. Okay. Now, I think this may be an issue that will be discussed quite a bit by the council, because depending on how we suggest it, there may be some pushback, because traditionally there's been this thing for lots of notice and so on, and I'm not sure that we've always treated people in the manner they should be treated. I got the feeling from most of you at previous things that we wanted to be far more liberal. In fact, I think you were saying, what, and in the past, why do we even need notice in the first place? But
And I think they need notice of whoever wants to speak,
yes,
so that the town clerk can, you know, call the next person and there's not a melee to speak.
And also there's a time limit to how much time we devote to that part of the agenda. And if you have more than the number competing for a slot, then there is an issue about how you prioritise and call on people, I think. So it needs to be managed, is what I'm trying to say.
And I think we're also saying that if they're speaking, it needs to be relevant to the agenda. So we don't want somebody coming in talking about, you know, the latest flavour of Wall's ice cream, or, you know, some crazy topic, you know.
I suggest we need, sorry.
I don't know if we might want to introduce in here something a bit more general about availability of councillors and how a member of the public can raise any issue they wish with the council. You know, giving a sort of menu of ways in which they can make a point to us.
Yes.
The old council, I did mention that several councils operate open surgeries, so there would be a time, say 10 till 12 on a Saturday morning, when two councillors would be available, you know, just to hear people's comments. As I said, I think the current system, in terms just strictly of the participation in council meetings, is actually well handled and works very well. The problem has been in particular the follow-up, which there hasn't been any as far as I can see.
I think if we can
I think that's extremely discourteous.
I think that's
I personally, you know, was gutted when I.
So as long as we articulate that in here, that would be good. Just on your point about surgeries, in the background, not for the next town council meeting, I'm hoping for the one after, I've been looking at how we engage better with the public. One of the things within that is, do we as a council want to run monthly, quarterly surgeries where 2 or 3 councillors? I've already spoken to Age Concern, more than happy for us to actually book a time slot there. So there are things in the background we can do to improve it, and I think we should all sign up to that, but that's to be discussed.
I agree entirely with what you're saying, Martin. And what I would like to see is that at the end of a public participation, whether there's a discussion about it afterwards, I'm not too sure, but I think that that one of the councillors should take on the ownership of the point that's being raised, because I personally feel that for somebody to come and stand up in front of the council, it's greater than them writing a letter.
It is.
And if they wrote a letter in, it would demand a response, or you know, we should make a response. But I actually think that, you know, a councillor should be nominated to own it and to action and to liaise with the participant going forward.
Building on that, I think also we should build in here that actually at the next meeting there's a report back on what was discussed and agreed to take away and do some action about, because I think one failing I see in terms of how we run our business today is things get discussed, people say let's do a bit of action on that, and then nobody ever comes back to say and what happened.
Okay, thank you. There's a few points there. Could I just come back to one point you raised, Peter? It's relative to the agenda. I think we have to phrase that very carefully. Let me give you an example. There occasionally pops up a threat that they want to build a private airstrip at Great Mungum. Now, the problem with that is that you're going to be having antique planes, because it's old enthusiasts. I mean, the planes are old, not the enthusiasts may not be old. Old in transport means noisy and polluting. He's the owner of the land is trying to say it's going to be electric. It's going to take 15 years before most light aircraft are electric. It's not relevant to the agenda, it's not even in Sandwich, but southern Sandwich will be affected by slow old aircraft taking off and climbing right over the town.
Well, if we were to say it's relevant to council business.
Yes.
No, okay, that I'm happy with that. If others would be relevant to council business,
Yes.
council matters.
I think it might be helpful if we sort of give a notional priority list. It might be, for instance, if there is a lot of demand to participate, to say, well, we will give first priority to residents, and we will give priority to points which are already on the council agenda. But then, if people want to raise other things, we can take it as it
I
comes.
think you're right. I don't think we should exclude anything that somebody wants to mention, because actually their view of something that's concerning them should be expressed. Equally, as a council, we can say we can help you, or we can say actually it's not for us to get involved. So let's not make it so narrow.
Okay, so
There was a lot of objection when the council introduced the rule that they had to apply to speak and say what they wanted to speak about.
Okay.
And there was objection from the public, and they said, well, you're not going to tell you what you want to speak about, because you will probably stop off from speaking if you don't like what you're going to speak about. So it's probably we should be aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
You've already given the answer.
We will stop.
Well, I'm sure
speaking,
it's
and
always
that's
unlikely,
absolutely close.
but it reminds us of members of the public.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they say, well, the way that you want to say to them, what you can speak about. So why do we have to tell you what we're going to speak about? We should be allowed to stand up and speak.
So Nick, on that
I'm not saying whether we should or shouldn't. I'm just saying that you will find members of the public who
So
raise it.
if we're including that in here as a requirement, do we not want to just put some further words about why? Because actually, we don't know what somebody is going to raise at the meeting, do we?
No.
But the town clerk knows it, just to make sure it's managed correctly. So that, there's some wording around that, because
I think if we explain the reason why we're asking for it.
Yeah.
That would be a very good idea.
Okay, and if the town clerk is handling that, the town clerk should report on all applications
Yes.
to speak. So we've had 7 applications to speak,
Yes.
and I considered one of them
Yeah.
the flavour of ice cream. Not
Yes,
appropriate.
that's right.
Yeah,
yes,
I
I think the
it's
answer.
better
Sorry,
if the
Mark.
chair has the final responsibility.
Yes.
I think the town clerk should report to the mayor
Yes.
if she gets an application to speak,
Okay.
which she thinks is not relevant. She should say to the mayor, should I allow this
Yes.
to speak or not? I agree with that.
All right. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's- makes sense to me.
but we also need, might I add just a bit to that? I agree the town clerk should report to the mayor as to whether the clerk thinks it's irrelevant, but I think there should also be a report to the council, to the meeting, because it's like Parliament. Parliament was set up, and a lot of it was on the basis that people were honourable. Now, we've seen in the past decade that has kind of fallen by the wayside with some people. I'm being polite.
Not like you.
Well, would you like me to name names?
Yeah,
We've been here a while.
I agree with your point that there should be a report to the council.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yeah, sorry, and we are, sorry, the wrong word is labouring on this. I think it's important we get it right, because actually we want to be transparent as a council across all the councillors, we get it right. So what I would find value in is actually knowing that we had 12 applications for that meeting to speak. 4 were selected because the other 8 weren't within whatever we set out in here in terms of criteria.
okay. Shall I just try to summarise, I think, where we are before this? We've agreed that we will replace the previous standard with this one. There's the issue, we feel that there is some need to let the town clerk know that somebody wants to speak, and the topic. That's primarily for prioritisation purposes,
Mhm.
and also to see how relevant this is to what the council can do. Let's call it the council's matters, or because it's not specifically just the agenda. Then we want to have consideration at some stage, whether we put it here or somewhere later, of some surgery type approach where people could, an additional means by which people can speak to councillors, possibly in an informal setting. Once a person has spoken at the end of the meeting, there should be some actions specific and attached specifically to individuals. There should be a report back of the, sorry?
I think that should be permissive. There's one way of doing the follow-up.
Yeah.
Okay, let me add that then. We would then want at the next meeting to have an update as to what actions were actually taken, and it may be that we're in the process on that. We should be considering a priority system, which comes back to this issue about the agenda, residents already council business. And in terms of public notice, we seem to be saying we need something, but not nearly as onerous and as restrictive as at present. And it obviously has to tie in with whatever practice there is about issuing agendas, because you can't really ask someone to, under the theoretical present one, put your point in before you know what the agenda is.
Which is what happens at present.
Well, I think people means mayors and town clerks have been a little bit more flexible,
Yeah,
but they don't have to.
They
They don't have to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so with those principles in mind, are we going to
Yes.
wordsmith the document?
I think so.
Can I just ask, please, how does this tie in with your paper?
How does this tie in?
Well, does this preempt or prejudge anything that you might be putting forward about communication?
It was
No,
me.
no.
It was me.
Oh, sorry, Emma.
Not at all.
Okay.
Mine's communications in the wider sense.
Okay.
You don't? Oh,
So,
sorry.
our existing protocol says, prior written notice of the desire to exercise the right to speak must be submitted to the chief executive by 9 o'clock 2 clear working days before the meeting.
Right.
Okay. And he goes on to say, where a request to speak is received on a subject which is not relevant to the agenda of that meeting, the elector must report the topic on which they wish to speak. Right. So they
Who
only,
must report?
so they only have.
Elector, the elector.
So
The elector.
the elector must report the topic on which they wish to speak. So they only have to give, currently, they only have to give notice of what they're speaking about. If the matter is not relevant to the agenda of that meeting. So,
Well,
I don't think-
we've decided
I
we're
don't
not
think-
working with that protocol, so
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
let's
Bear
wordsmith.
that in mind. Let's try to have it as simple as possible.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
agree. And
Exactly.
This is the, this goes
A
on.
bit of a mishmash.
Yeah.
Doesn't like barbecue. Right. 511. Any issues?
Well, the thing for me there is physical access. I don't really find that this council chamber is, physically accessible to all. And, when I've been here at council meetings and there's a large number of people of the public attending, there's not much space for them.
Yeah.
Can just if you can. On access, I mean, there is a lift, which presumably is intended to give disabled access to this floor.
Yes, there is. The difficulty is if the jury room is used for another purpose, they can't come through the jury room to here. And that's the only lift, is the one, as where you and I almost met, sort of, just before we came up the
Yes.
stairs, yeah. That's the only lift that I'm aware of.
It is the only lift, and that is the problem.
So we've got two parts, the physical access and secondly, the space for the public to actually sit. Peter, is that the second part?
Well, I'm just making the comment about physical access.
Yeah, sorry, no, thank you. Yeah, Peter would like to finish, sorry, my fault.
Sorry, I haven't got a solution because, you know, it's going to be difficult to move the council chamber, but to have these words, you know, it just throws up that question to me.
And then on top of that is access for the housebound, which is with regard to online access.
This is what I think Martin and I were alluding to, the problem of physical access, and I think Peter also mentioned it as well. Yes, it's physical access. Yeah.
Well, we had a conversation about the layout of this room, which will facilitate the filming and also facilitate the space and the view of the public, which is apparently to instead of having the cross tables, you know it better than I do because I think it was used at one point.
I think it was February or March of last year, a resolution was passed that the councillors will not have their backs to the public gallery. At that time we were in the Delft room and it was set up in a U that was facing the public.
Right.
Since moving into this room, initially the tables were rearranged so that they were open along that edge and so that the public could look in. Yeah, so the tables were here and that formed the top of the U. So the U went round like that, and I had my table more or less where Emmett was sitting and the public were beside and behind me. And now that has never been rescinded, so that resolution is still currently standing, and yet we're not observing
Do
it.
you think this was February of last year?
February, March.
Last year.
Was it March, was it? It hasn't been rescinded, but we haven't actually observed it for some time.
So, question, why isn't it reinstated? Yes? Okay, it is one of my bugbears. I think it's so incredibly rude to have our backs to people.
It's difficult for people to see who's speaking, and given that words are not the whole communication, sort of there's the body language, but you know, expression and so forth, and it's actually very difficult for people sitting behind you.
Yeah, I've never been in a place that does it that way. Right, so we've got issues of physical access. Are there any other issues about 511? Physical access to wireless?
So I think I'd just like to pick up later, I'm happy with this to be honest, later on is something about access for people who are housebound, because I'd like to, we shouldn't expect necessarily everybody who wants to say something to be physically in the room. I'd like to see a way that we actually build into the standing orders that we have an alternative method, particularly for those that are housebound. How we articulate it will come to that when it's the right time to do it. I don't know if others agree.
Yeah, I agree. The council did try that once, didn't they?
They did.
How successful was it?
Wasn't it the planning committee where they insisted public sat in the jury room with a screen?
Oh,
Yes.
And they pulled the plug on it.
And then they pulled the plug on
That
it.
is exactly the one, yes.
That's right, because it was deemed too controversial or something?
Well, so perhaps that was the reason. It was difficult to know exactly what the reason was, because what happened, they simply abandoned us in the side room, finished their meeting, went home and left us all still in the side room. We didn't even know the meeting had finished.
Oh, dear.
But it's possible to do that. And to my mind, there's nothing wrong in doing that. If you can provide that facility, then people don't actually physically have to be in the same room if they can have a screen and watch the filming.
Well, you know, it's easy enough to Skype people in or Teams people in or Zoom.
The only thing I would say is that the public have a legal right to be in the same room, but if they can't manage it, then it's about facilitating an alternative method to access the meeting.
Okay, I've got a note of that for the minutes, but coming back to this, the thing that surprises me in this one is the second sentence in 511 about rights in here about excluding members of the public if their behaviour was unacceptable. It just seems to be in the wrong place. I would personally think that's not the right place to leave it. Well,
if you want it in at all.
if you want, well, yes, good point. And then code of councillors and consequent actions of 8.1. That also I think personally should be out of this paragraph that falls completely.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So we're going to cut them or strike through them. Cut it all together.
I would. I think so.
I think so. Christine, you want to make a point?
The council do have the right to exclude individual members of the public if they are being disruptive
Yes.
to the proceedings.
Yes.
So that right does exist within the council, but it's not something that would be done in advance. It's done in response to someone being disruptive and given a warning and not abiding by the warning.
Yes. This, I think, is covered elsewhere in the standing orders.
I'm not sure where it is, to be honest, in this
Well,
one.
could you just do a strike through at the moment, rather than a deletion, and then when we clear it up, we can delete it either.
Yeah. Done.
Thank you.
So what I will do is I will mention to Councillor Simon Mallet about, because he's looking at the live streaming, we discussed it yesterday. I'll ask him if he could look about how do we incorporate remote access for individuals, perhaps via Teams. So I'll take that away and I'll just drop him a note.
Thank you. All right. Anything else on 511? Okay.
Section 6.5 deals with disorderly conduct.
Great.
So it is.
I knew it was somewhere, but I just wasn't quite sure where.
Yeah.
Right.
So are you saying I can delete that now?
Yeah.
then?
Yes, I think you
Yeah.
can.
Right. 512 is statutory, isn't it?
This is statutory, except the statute says meetings shall be open to the public, not all meetings. So if we want to follow the now code, then you delete the word all.
I have done.
It has been.
Oh, it has been,
Yeah.
oh,
Yes.
fine, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't read that.
Yeah. Well, okay.
And you've taken our subject section forward as
Yes.
well? Yep.
Right. And then specifically, if you have to exclude somebody, it's covered by now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. And that I think is more about the having a resolution because it's a confidential matter.
Correct.
Thank you. 513.
Well, this provides for people to speak for 5 minutes.
Yes.
And that the period for public participation is 30 minutes.
Up to.
Which is longer than we have.
15.
We say 3 minutes and 15 minutes.
Yep.
I don't think 3 minutes is long enough for anybody really, without trying
Yes.
to get one to put in
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it is. It really is.
It's machine
I
done.
don't know what your feeling is.
Obviously depends on the subject, some can probably be presented quite briefly. I do find it incredibly helpful if we have a hard copy of the information that's been given, that we can go back and reread it afterwards, particularly if there are several interventions. I find it particularly helpful just looking to go back after the meeting and reread them carefully. I wouldn't want to impose, I mean, that's between the minimum and the best practice, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's best practice if they
The two observations I would have is that if we give 30 minutes, the reality is that the 30 minutes won't be used at every meeting and probably won't be used at any meeting.
Yeah.
But having quarter of the time to allow residents to talk to us is important.
I agree.
I agree too.
Yeah, right. So we're happy that for this meeting to be 5 minutes and the up to 30 minutes. We need to modify that a bit for last. There is the point that we talked earlier about relevant to the agenda of that meeting at the time indicated in the agenda or determined by the chair. Gosh. Can we simplify that, or should we simplify it?
So we talked about
Yeah.
being allowed to talk in relevant to council business.
Yes, I
To
think,
the business of the council.
which is relevant to
Or
the
business of
business.
the council.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think all of those words could be removed.
Yes.
Full stop.
Full stop.
And then, do we need,
Guillotine the rest.
yeah. We need the rest. Yeah, Christina?
I think-
Challenges, they don't do it.
Do we need to keep including?
I think-
Including committee meetings.
Sorry.
Well, no,
well, it does- no,
it's
it's-
council business.
Council business, so
Yeah, okay.
That covers it.
Christina?
I think you need to provide a definition of council business.
Yes, but not in,
No,
Not
but
here, that's
if that might be used as something that cuts
Yeah,
things
so-
out, then
what can we do about, I don't know, the marina at Dover, for example? That is not so relevant to us. Well, okay, just because you've got your $1 billion yacht partner there.
No,
So-
I know that.
So could I suggest, and say if it's, you don't accept it, but as determined by the chair, so the accountability
Yeah.
rests with the chair.
Yes.
Yeah?
As determined by the chair.
And and by being accountable, they can be challenged by the individual or otherwise. Yeah?
For the business of the council,
As determined by the chair.
as determined by the chair of that meeting,
Yes.
including committee meetings.
Yes.
Well, actually, it should be all meetings, should they? Even working parties and subcommittees.
Well, the previous paragraph just says meetings.
Yes.
Yes, so, okay, so delete that. Okay, excellent. Subject to, right? A request we made to the clerk to speak. So we said that we really needed, I think we're implying that the person have to give us some indication of what they want to talk about. The issue is how much detail and how far in advance. Or are we content with A and B?
Well,
Martin?
I think some time should be allowed for the chair and the clerk to reach decisions.
Yes.
Okay.
Whether half a day is sufficient, I don't know. I
By
think
10 o'clock on the day of the meeting? By 10 o'clock, if they have to get to us by 10 o'clock on the day of the meeting?
I think we need a bit more time in the sense of practicalities of the clerk and the chair having an opportunity.
What would we suggest? Well, I think you have the suggestion that they need at least half a day, and that's why I suggested 10, but
10 o'clock on the Friday, on the
the previous working day.
previous, 10 o'clock on the previous working day.
So explain that to me
Yeah.
in a sense, what does that
And
mean?
then it's Saturday, a working day.
The Saturday is a working day.
Yes.
And we're not used to and if we didn't have a working day, we would not be have a proper meeting on
Yeah, I know, that's.
on Monday, so it's Saturday.
So I think whatever way we carve it will always be the exception when it's not possible. So why don't we just say by end of the close of the previous working day, which then gives
Yes.
the working day of the meeting for the two people concerned to have a discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
the close of the previous working day.
Yeah.
Christina, you want to make
well, I was just going to say that for the full council meetings that are taking place on Monday, the cut-off is 4 p.m. on Friday. So
which is
So that gives people 2 days because the agenda was issued late last night. So they've got Thursday and the working part of the day on Friday in which to submit any requests, which is reasonable-ish. It'd be nice if there was longer, but it's reasonable. It's better than just one day, which it has been sometimes, or less.
Or, so,
So by the close of business,
of the previous working day. That does mean, of course, technically Saturdays. Yeah. Well, let's face it, if the request comes in at sort of 5:30 on a Friday, I'm not sure there'll be necessarily a lot of people around to deal with it anyway. The key thing is that the Monday morning start for the next working day,
Yes.
they have a few hours usually.
Yeah.
All right. Or ahead of the proper start time. C.
So B should be deleted.
Yeah, I'm quite sure B's full. We've covered it up.
Well, this allows the chair of the meeting to grant a request to speak if made at the meeting. In other words, if somebody at the meeting says, I want to speak, but we're saying no, you've got to be noticed before, so you don't need paragraph B.
Are we content with that? In that there is no possibility of someone turning up at the last minute?
I think so. I think because that can be disruptive to the meeting, and they've got opportunities to contact councillors, contact the town clerk.
That's fine. Are we all in agreement then?
Yes.
B is deleted.
Yeah.
B is deleted. Thank you.
I think somewhere else there is reference to the chair's power to allow someone from the public to speak if their particular expertise is relevant.
That's right, in some of the working bits later on, yeah, I think that's right. C, I think that's extremely important, and I don't think questions are asked about that. And I'm
That's
thinking,
true, yes.
I really think that's critical, that
Yes.
People disclose any relevant interest.
It's not in our present standing orders or in our present public.
No, and I think it's particularly important if we've got things like planning issues.
Yes.
Most definitely. Yeah.
So
I agree.
Membership range group proximity development. Yeah, I'm happy with B, the new B now. D, that becomes C, of course, wasn't it? The total. Right. I think that's one bit we're going to get a bit of pushback on.
Yes.
Because we're already limited to, is it 2 hours in total for a meeting?
It is 2 hours. That's what takes a quarter. So the only thing I would, so I'm just going to ask a question here. Are we going to flush out those things that we feel might be contentious? So what I would hate to have is we get through a paper which is quite extensive and people maybe not read it to the depth that is necessary. There are a few things that we might want to expose.
We're not going to get it discussed at this meeting.
No, we're not.
So that'll give us a little bit of time for the, is there a July meeting?
Yes,
There is a July. I'd be happy to sit down, say with Peter and just go through all of the amendments that we've got and just draw, these are the key changes we've made that we think you'll be most interested in.
Yeah.
And issue that.
Yes.
As well, and then the document becomes an appendix.
Agreed.
If that's a way.
It's similar to banking changes when you get the thing through and it screams of stuff. They tend to nowadays, fortunately, say these are the key things you need to be aware
Okay,
of.
I'll would you be happy with me working with you on the data? Okay. And we have a summary of changes. And we'll just draw their attention to it and send it to them in plenty of time. So they get a chance to read it. Okay. Yeah, and then obviously I like contribution from everybody because by no means will I have picked everything up. Okay, so we finished with that. Right, only one question. How, and I think this is perhaps being my bonnet, how will we let people know that they have been speaking for 5 minutes?
The town clerk should normally have a timer.
Yes.
What I have seen is a kitchen timer, and while one person was speaking, admittedly that person did overrun their time, and consistently overran their time, is they kept the timer going all of the time that the person was trying to speak, which I think is crass. And that's the politest word I can find.
So,
Well, they do have, sorry.
I was going to say, we don't need to build it in here. I think the responsibility lies with the town clerk and the chair to manage that here. And councillors can interject, I suppose, if the time is excessive. But it's, because it does say the chair has discretion around this, and they may want to allow the person to speak longer, etc. So,
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I think when I was trained to do a public speaking, the system that they have is the typical 3 light system. You know, you've got a green light when you're in perfect time.
Yes.
As you're approaching, they may be 30 seconds or only in before
Yeah.
an amber light comes
Amber
on,
light,
and
that's
then a red light. It does, and if you notice actually in the Delft room, you look up. If you're standing on the stage or where the stage would be, there are 3 coloured lights. Yeah, I spotted it. I didn't go to Toastmasters for nothing. But I think it could be something that needs to be explored in the longer term. Okay, but at the moment you're saying it's the discretion of the chair, and the chair or town clerk should indicate to the person that they're in danger of exceeding 5 minutes.
Do we want to write that in?
I
In here, I think, you know, it's up to the chair and the town clerk to control the overall duration of the meeting, and I think, you know, we might be trying to go to too fine a detail.
I did say it was an obsession of
Anyway, the
mine.
rules are here, and it's up to the town clerk and the town clerk and the mayor
Yes.
to control those rules.
Okay. Or my pet. 514. Content? 514.
yeah.
Right. No. I think this is the point you were making a couple of minutes ago, Martin, wasn't it? 515?
Yes.
Maybe in fact. I mean, basically that's what we're doing here with Christina's help, aren't we?
The council members or.
It's what we do in committee meetings and work
It's
sessions.
a difference.
Yes.
I think you may get pushback from some council on this to say, no, it's so disruptive if you're a member of the council meeting, member of the public, and so we're going to be putting their hands up, saying, may I speak please, Mr. Chair.
So are we confining it, are we
Or
content
could
with confining
combine that to committee meetings or working group meetings rather than full council meetings. I don't know.
what are views? Are we, I would have thought that the lower the tier of the committee, the more sort of hands-on it is, the more it should be allowed.
Yes, yes.
So I would say obviously working groups, subcommittees, committees, whether you feel it's right for council meetings is another matter. They're a little bit more formal.
Well, with the approval of the chair,
Yeah.
or at the chair's discretion, members of the public,
Okay?
and just leave it at
I
that and
think,
delete
yeah.
the second sentence.
I agree.
Right, thank you.
Ian,
Yes.
I need to leave.
Right, okay,
Thank you very much. Sorry that
No, that's all right.
I can't stay for the full duration.
I think I agree with that too.
All right, okay, there we are, fine, super. Now, the next one is, again, that's statutory,
I want to find in the statutory requirement.
6, 5 and 6. Right, so there's no,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
yes. 5 and 7. And we change it. By analog, I take it now we mean the minutes, do we? Or have we still got a shorthand scribe?
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
I would have got recording and broadcasting meetings. Why don't just leave it, take out by
Just say recording or broadcasting a meeting, full stop.
full stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Christina, yes?
Analog could be a tape, like a dictating machine type
Yes, it could.
thing,
Well,
I
they're digital
guess,
now.
but they are now, aren't they?
They're all digital, aren't they? I mean, the older, yeah. Why don't you say broadcasting meetings, full stop?
I think so, yes.
Okay, thank you. When a meeting is recorded. Yes, Christina?
Consent to the recording or broadcasting of meetings, are you referring to by the council or by the public?
Well, this is for the council and councillors,
Okay,
and it says it's specific. If people, members of the public, don't want to, they cannot refuse for the council to record or broadcast a meeting. All they can refuse is to be viewed or identified.
with regards to members of the public, but with regards to a member of the public filming and broadcasting the council, we actually have the legal right, and so consent is irrelevant in that instance, is what I'm suggesting. So I'm not sure why that is there.
I think it's probably to reinforce the fact that there is a legal requirement to do so. But come on, let's work with people.
Yeah.
We surely don't want to impose the legals on people unnecessarily, because people should be wanted, I suggest, to work with assembly. I could be wrong, but
I certainly don't think we should impose anything on members of the public,
no.
but members of the public do have a legal right to record the council. They don't have to ask for permission. I mean, I'm very upfront, but someone could sit there with their phone and do it and share it, and
Well,
it's entirely up to them.
A couple of people were doing that sort of thing last night, weren't they? At
Yes,
the,
yeah.
Yes.
the other meeting, weren't they? Okay. Well, what's the conclusion? Are we just saying consent? We leave it at consent?
Well, the only thing I'm thinking is the word consent suggests that someone has the option of not consenting.
If you could clarify for me then, if amongst all the councillors don't want to be filmed or identified, do I have the right to say no?
You as a councillor?
As a councillor?
Well, if you're in a meeting, then I don't believe you have that right, because the public has the right to film and to share council meetings, and so the councillors are part of that meeting, are integral to the meeting.
So maybe the words are that councillors acknowledge that meetings will be or can be recorded and broadcasted.
Yeah, and indeed the bit about recording further up that's in bold, that actually is underpinned by the legislation that allows the public to do it. Somewhere or other, I did see it.
I don't think we've covered it so far today.
Oh, maybe it's
Not today.
elsewhere, but I have seen it.
Okay.
There is something.
Yes, but I don't think it's in section 5.
Yeah, it's not section 5, no.
Well, what do we want to say then?
I think acknowledge is fair enough.
Councillors acknowledge
What I do with members of the public is I say to them, if you're speaking, then if you stand there, you can be recorded, but if you stand on the other side, well, sorry, it's this side would be recorded, that side not. And so you choose as to whether you actually want to be visible in the video. And likewise, I do speak with the public gallery as well, and say if anybody doesn't want to appear in the video, to come and sit up out of camera angle.
yes, but this is, that's right, we need to remember that. But this is for councillors, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right? Jeremy? To members of the public, 518, sorry.
Yeah.
Did you want to say that? Okay. 518, that warns people. Well, in that case, is it sensible to put an additional sentence there is members of the public have the right to ask not to appear. Is it not to appear in this broadcast or not to be?
Well,
That's where you
it's
should
the
put it in.
visual. I mean, from my perspective, I'm quite happy for a member of the public to not identify themselves and to not have a visual representation. Their voice will still be heard because their voice is part of the meeting.
Yes.
But that it can be anonymous to a certain degree. I mean, depending on what information they choose to disclose, and that really is their choice, isn't it? But the public have the right to record what takes place in that meeting. But at the same time, I respect that, and I think we should respect that not everybody would want to be seen in a film.
Okay.
I understood the intention of 518 to say, you know, we tell you you may be filmed, and how you react to that is your business.
That's
Whether
fair.
you want to, you know, leave the meeting or wear a balaclava or whatever you want to do.
Sit out of line of sight, you
Yeah.
can do so.
Yeah.
So 518 stands as it is. Are we happy? Okay. Right. Please. Yeah. Public engagement. Yes, Christine.
I just want to, these first words by acceptance of these standing orders, I don't think it's conditional on accepting the standing orders. I think it's simply by virtue of being a councillor who takes part in council meetings.
Yeah.
So we're saying council. There should just be councillors acknowledge the meetings.
Yeah, I think, exactly, I think we can just drop that first bit.
In that case, the whole clause is in the wrong place. Because this is all about public participation, and there'll be many circumstances where you're going to be recording a meeting and there has been no public participation and no request for public participation. So we need to find where to put 517. Okay.
Or if you need it at all.
I think it's important to say that, just to remind, because in the past, I think you've had some difficulties with people trying to suggest, and I appreciate we've got a different regime now, but I think there was some pushback.
Initially there was some reluctance from individuals.
I still think it's important. I still think we should go somewhere. Just to reinforce the fact that meetings are going to be recorded and councillors have to accept that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's an expectation.
Yeah, okay, we just need to put it somewhere different, okay? Right?
Could I suggest if we have a code of conduct, wouldn't it sit in there?
Yes, good idea. Okay. Right, 519.
I find this a bit confusing.
This really is catch 22.
The one that you're
It's very friend, yeah.
I don't quite understand, you're right, I don't quite understand. Meetings organised for the specific purpose of public engagement.
Yeah.
What meeting would that be?
Well,
public meeting.
Public meeting. Public meeting.
for example, would be a public. Or I suppose if we went into having things like surgeries, as was suggested earlier, that might be.
And I'm not sure which of these statutory requirements would apply to such a meeting.
Because the statutory requirements are specific council meetings and committee meetings.
Yeah.
And do you believe?
I think probably. I think it is a reason, and I don't think it's actually available.
I would go further. I would say it's creating an obstacle to full participation of the public. If we organise a meeting, as far as I can see, it is not an official council meeting. It's not a meeting of the council, it's a meeting of the public.
Oh, yeah.
Which provides, I think, the statutory requirements, anything to do with it, we can hold the meeting in the form as we require.
Yes.
I think so. So, the consensus is to meet?
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Linda?
that's
Great. I like it. We will disagree.
no instruction from you.
Wow, marvellous. We've got through this a lot quicker than I thought.
Can I just say, just going back to our principles, we haven't covered the kind of the principle that was stated before about the subject matter being allocated to a councillor for action.
You're right.
And we haven't got it.
And I don't know where is the best place is that, should that go in after the 30 minutes at the discretion of the chair, or should it go in 515?
Or should it go into section 6, conduct of meetings and debate? It might be better in there.
Okay.
I think it needs something broader. I would like to see something in 5 that says the chair will indicate following each intervention the follow-up which the council may give to points raised in the public, something like that. This could include inviting a councillor to work with them, to work on the issue or something.
Okay. Follow-up. So that could be written reply, e.g. a written reply, or allocated to a particular councillor or official or officer or committee. Okay.
I've written the chair will indicate following each public speaker. I've got a lot of followings there. The follow-up that will be given to the public speaker, or the consequential action that will arise, or something like that.
Well, you say chair will indicate
After each public speaker.
well, why not? No, the chair will indicate the follow-up that will be given to each public speaker, and that takes out that whole middle part, and that keeps it. Okay, so follow-up that will be given to each public speaker, and then I think the rest of it you have. I've got. Well, where they have indicate possible follow-up, such as a written reply, allocation to a particular councillor for further action, or to a committee, or to an officer. And just leave it as it says, e.g. a written reply.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
action allocated to a councillor, a committee, or an officer. Because some of it, it might be the responsible finance officer, as opposed to answer.
Committee, working group,
Committee,
working group is a committee.
yes.
Yes.
Content?
Yeah,
Content?
thank you.
Thank you, 519, that's good. So we've got the key point then, Margaret, that you wanted to follow up, that we all wanted to talk about earlier. And I'll put that in the minutes, that now appears on 519. Right, excellent, well done. Okay, 519. Yep. Right. 6, conduct of meetings and debate. Motions not required. This is just how you conduct a meeting, is it? Are there any concerns about 611?
not statutory.
No, it's not. I mean, these follow what's in our existing standing orders, and they seem to be pretty standard among the various standing orders I've looked at. And it is, you have to specify these, because otherwise, if you don't have, you haven't written notice, you can't raise
Yes,
those.
I'm not keen on the two at the beginning of each sentence. You know, maybe we should bring that up to the headline paragraph above.
That's two, and then point, correct, dispose. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Martin.
That's all right.
I think the word two after proper officer,
Yeah.
and that takes us having to repeat two.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. I think N to go without written notice. N doesn't have to be with written notice, does it? Exclude public in the press.
No, that must be right.
So, well, if it's not,
Somebody may raise an issue which is considered confidential.
and therefore you can exclude the public.
Somebody then stand up and say,
And raise a
I
motion.
raise a motion.
Right, okay. Although in practice, the majority will be noted
Of course,
in the
yes,
agenda.
Yes.
That's some lovely answer here.
Really?
To not hear.
Yes.
I've never seen so many. But I thought some of the places I worked were interesting in their approach.
But I mean, I find this very formal approach to tabling motions 7 days before is simply not the way we normally work. I don't know why the standing orders are drafted like that.
Well, I see. What's the other thing is that for the
Well, 6 to 1 you're looking at now. Are you? Sorry,
Well, I mean, this is maybe wrong way around, yeah. You start off saying which don't require notice.
Yeah.
and then you go on to 6.2, which are the ones that do require it.
Which do require notice. And then we say, at the moment they say, they require no less than 7 clear days.
Yes,
You have to give the proper officer
sufficient.
some notice, sufficient notice, so she can prepare the agenda. Whether it should be 7 days or...
That's why she imposed this cut-off, which
Yes,
really
yes.
for last Thursday,
Yes.
which I thought was ridiculously early. And of course it was because it was in another communication, which I thought not for me.
The issue then is that this only refers to a motion,
Not to an agenda item.
but it may be that supporting documents, you could argue from this that you don't have to stick on supporting documents, only the which could be general.
Can I just ask, so Justine, just one moment. Are we finished with 6.1? Have we completed 6.1?
I think we are.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Christina, did you have something else? 6.1?
Yes, expanding on documents really is that
Which paragraph is
Which paragraph?
well, it's on 6.2.
6.2, okay, we haven't got on to that yet.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were.
No.
But
Oh, right, okay.
We are content with 6.1.
So 6.2.1. when the agenda is issued to the public, I do believe we really do want to see all the attachments with it. Now, most of the time we do, but occasionally attachments appear just during a meeting, and then it's impossible for the public to know what's being discussed because you're referencing documents that we haven't seen and we don't have access to. So we lose transparency when that happens. And so I don't know exactly how it's going to fit in here, but with regards to the attachments to the agendas that are issued to the public, in order for that to be properly transparent, is we do want the documents submitted by councillors to the proper officer in sufficient time that they can actually go out as attachments with the agenda.
I understand, we can accept that point, but then I think we've got the wrong word here, because is say a discussion about standing orders, which is what we're going to have at the next council meeting, is that a motion or is that a discussion, an agenda item? Or a proposal? I'm not sure what the motion.
It will be a proposal, and
So-
presumably a motion at the bottom, which will be either a recommendation that it be accepted.
So motions are purely, motions then are purely the
Something to vote on.
Motions of what are they voting?
With luck.
In that case,
With a bit of luck.
With a bit of luck, yes.
now,
Yes. A lot of reports don't contain that. Some reports don't contain motions. In which case they are often just noted.
The motion is, very often you get this decision required
Yes.
on the agenda without actually giving a specific motion.
suggested.
And
In that
a lot of the
case,
reports are just to note. Sorry.
most of 6.2 is probably good.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, but the wording is wrong.
Well, it is wrong, because if you look at 611, 611E, it says you don't, notice is not required to put a motion to the vote in relation to any agenda topic.
Yeah.
So, and then you say, no, motions have to have,
Written notice.
except those listed under section 6.1. Well, 6.1 says you've got to put a motion to the vote.
This is
without
catch
this.
22 countries.
It is.
With the 6.1, put the motion to the vote, is that perhaps not referencing that you're able to move it towards a vote? So the motion has to be put forward in 6.2, but in 6.1 you've got the option of moving to a vote rather than continuing to discuss it for the next 10 minutes.
But basically, this has confused the actual motion, which is the decision at the end, that is with the agenda item. The two actually are quite separate.
The agenda item is the bigger piece, isn't it?
Yes.
So we've got the agenda item, and within that or underneath, we may have a motion. But a motion, if it exists, will require a resolution. So it will require a vote, and a resolution is the result of the vote on the motion, on the agenda item.
I think the key to this is actually how you prepare the agenda, but that's certainly maybe a can of worms that we don't want to
Not yet.
Well, yeah, we don't want to make it so rigid that, you know, for somebody who makes a recommendation and asks for a decision required, you know, other people throw out because it's not a motion type of thing.
But
Do we know where these have come from? Because these are obviously homegrown somewhere.
Yeah, these Nick, you found from
they're
Froome
used by a number of councils.
Yes.
Now, the NELC model code says pretty well much the same thing, slightly different word. It says no motion may be moved at a meeting unless it is on the agenda and the mover has given written notice of his wording to the proper officer at least blank clear day before the meeting. And then it's up to each council to decide how much notice is needed.
I think this is, as a partner of Clifford Chump said to me one day, this is the LMJ, legal mumbo jumbo.
Yeah. I prefer a bit more loose Yeah. This is what some people clothe themselves in to try to make it look more complex than it needed. Right. So really,
But
it
the
is
proper officer must be given time to receive emotions or reports or recommendations in order to
Publish the agenda.
publish the agenda. So
Right.
it has to be given to her so many days before the agenda is published. Now the length of time is up to us to decide.
Okay.
Maybe it's the use of the word motion which
Yeah, I
is
think
confusing us. If our intention is simply to say, if you want something put on the agenda, you have to tell the proper officer so far in advance, and where possible, and also indicate which decisions may be required from council.
I think that's pretty much the sort of conclusion I can reach as well. Well, Christina, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I was just thinking in terms of setting the deadline, it's possible that when a councillor puts their proposal, motion, whatever, to the proper officer, it might be incomplete insofar as they may be requesting something and the proper officer, when they read it, might think, well, actually we need a little bit more information on something in order for the council to then be able to duly consider the matter. And so that needs to be built into the timeline, doesn't it? To have potentially a dialogue with the councillor about what they want submitted.
It must be, because very often councillors will put a report in with the town clerk, say, can you advise me on the wording for the agenda? Which often happens. It's left up to the town clerk to actually formulate the agenda or have discussions. So I do think there must be a decent time. And it can't be the day before the agenda's published.
No. Well, it's really more than I think Martha's hit on the head. It's more than motion. It's sort of agenda items and related motions. That's really what it is talking about.
It is. Yeah.
So
All items which council is required to be put onto the agenda
yes,
has to be lodged with the council
yeah,
X days before, something like that.
yes.
The wording is much clearer.
Well, I think, the conduct of meetings and debate, this is all kind of out of sequence.
Yeah.
And I think it would be good if we could make it so that it's a bit more plain English and set it out before the meeting, during the meeting,
Yes.
after the meeting,
Yeah.
type of thing. So before the meeting,
Yes.
what you've got to do, you've got to propose items for the agenda, the town clerk's got to set the agenda, you've got to give apologies if you can't attend the meeting. Those are the types of things.
This has leapt straight into the detail,
Correct.
and it hasn't. It's not clear where it should be. So I think even if we have a new 6.1, which is the typical, structure of a meeting should be this bit, and this bit.
Yeah.
And the relevant conduct bits will apply, so that you start off with 6. In fact, you start off with 6.2.2,
Yeah.
because that's a notice that you want to raise something,
Yeah.
or and to others that it will be raised, and please read this, and so on. Then you come on to the actual conduct of the meeting,
Yeah.
which is a lot of 6.1.1, and then you've got some other items in 6.3 is about actually in the meeting. Yeah, I think we follow Peter's suggestion about altering the running order, but could I suggest we wait until the end of discussion on the whole of section
Okay.
6?
All right.
Would that be okay for people? Martin?
And just a comment, it's something on which I would value an input from the clerk.
Yes, this was one thing I was thinking about, whether we should invite the town clerk to the next meeting if we had made sufficient progress. Because we did say specifically at the start that we would have a consultation with the town clerk.
Yeah.
And presume by that time we will know who the town clerk is, whether that person is in post or not. Don't know.
No, I think it's absolutely right that at some stage
Yes,
we
must-
need to put this
to
to
the town
the
clerk.
town
I
clerk,
can get that
whoever
person
he or
to-
she may be.
Yeah.
Say, can we have your input and view on what we're proposing? And she may say, this won't work.
Yeah,
Say, this
exactly.
won't work, we need this,
Yeah.
we're omitting this and so on.
So this is, if we do things in different orders, so the typical thing is what I would call preparing for the meeting and agendas. But
Yeah, meeting preparation.
Yeah. Then we've got actual conduct of the meeting, which is a lot of it is 611, 663, I think. Action during the meeting. And then there will be the one at the end, which is conclusion of the meeting, isn't it?
Well, yes, I think there's, yes, conclusion of the meeting, you know, the issue of the minutes and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's the conclusion of the meeting and actions.
Yeah.
That's just for the notes, for the agenda, for the minutes.
But can I say, if we are going to restructure this document and move sections around on track changes, it becomes really messy.
Yes.
Will do, yes.
Well, yes. Can you, it's a long-term sluggish track changes, can you switch track changes off for a section of a Word document?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Right. So you would have to do something, one document which is track changes and accept that we have to continue the order.
And
A
then
second,
do a
a second
cleaned up.
cleaned up document
Yeah.
with things in a better order.
Yeah,
Yes,
That would be the way to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you just excuse it from it.
yeah.
Okay. So we need to have track changes issues. Issues, we need 2 separate docs. Okay, and I've taken note of we must write the town clerk, whether it's the next week. I'm assuming we'll probably have a meeting next week sometime. This is, I seem to remember, I should understand, you're not going to do it in 1 month, and you said, oh, I don't know about that. I do think it's critical that we should
No,
have the town
come
clerk.
on, I think you were saying we couldn't do it 1 month, and I said, yeah, but we ought to have
A time
deadline.
You did, yes. I mean, I was privately thinking, how long is this piece of string? I think we also need to invite the town clerk for
Yeah.
the meeting in sufficient time for this then to be put on
Yeah.
the agenda. We set ourselves a rough deadline to try to hit the July meeting.
Yeah, she's only working here officially till the end of June, so the end of next week.
In that case, we're out of time anyway, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, even if it has to be whoever at this point. Okay, we'll cross that bridge
Yeah.
when we come to it.
Oh, no longer just saying this is as far as we've got. Have you got any comments?
I think if she's finishing at the end of June, then she's going to be snowed under with so many additions.
That's true.
I don't think any person,
No, I
no
think-
matter how good, is going to be able to handle.
No, we've got to wait until there's a decision is made, and we have got a permanent town clerk.
Yes, I think so.
Otherwise,
Whoever's, it
it
is,
will be totally inundated.
it
But
begins such.
there's any time available she has there.
Yeah. All right. Gosh, you've got some interesting notes. Peter's got some interesting track changes. But I do think the way of reordering it, to my mind, is a very good sense.
Yes, I agree.
If so,
Okay,
If so, do we want to go through 622 as it is, and accepting that we know it's going to be changed for Peter, we just agreed that if the present interim town clerk arrangements are that that person finishes at the end of this month, we're not going to be able to get that person in and to have a meeting with us. But we will, at the earliest opportunity, invite whoever has picked up the role to meet us and give them this a few days in advance so they can have a look at it and say, well, this might work, or have you really thought this could be improved?
Okay.
Do we want to go back to 6.2, motions requiring notice? If we're going to change it, really it's more about agenda items, isn't it?
Well, most of it is procedural.
Yeah.
But I do just want to point out that 624 is very important. Sets out what agenda items in motion the proper officer can reject. But we've had a lot of argument in the past under the NAV model, because this again is a total confusion under the NAV model, which says, basically gives the proper officer the right whether to include a motion on the agenda.
Milk model does. The milk model does.
The NAV model allows that to, well, I don't think it does, but you can interpret it that way. And there's been a big argument about it, because councillors have submitted in the last few months, in our previous town clerk, the councillors have submitted agenda items which the proper officer has rejected, without giving any reason or any justification.
So I think we should, sorry Nick, can we extend it to a motion, an agenda item or a report?
Yes, so 624, as we've got it there, to my mind, must remain.
Yes.
And I'm very insistent on that.
It's best in consultation with the chair.
Yes, it does.
Chair or conveners. Do we have meeting conveners? That's a new term. We only have meeting chairs.
Are you the meeting committee?
No, I don't think we do. You can take out all conveners.
With the chair, with the council chair, or
You can take out all
Christine,
conveners.
yes?
Could the conveners not refer to when you have a situation where two councillors can request an extraordinary meeting,
That is
so
true.
there is no chair?
You're right, Christine. Well done. Yeah.
You get your gold star for that one.
Which I did do on occasion with another councillor.
So what I'm saying, the proper officer in consultation with the chair
Or convener of the meeting. And
or conveners of meeting, is it the meeting? Of a meeting. Of a meeting. Yes, that's better. May only reject the motion, agenda item or report on the basis of lack of clarity, irrelevance, or unlawful or improper.
Are you happy? I stuck my words in there, the agenda item and report.
Yes, I'm okay. That clarifies it
yes,
considerably.
yeah.
Right? And is it still summons in 625?
Yes, it is.
You want summons to a council meeting. The agenda for the council meeting is actually a legal summons.
Gosh,
It is to tell you to attend.
or else.
And by law, you have to attend, unless
Yes.
you've got a good reason not to. So that the word summons is actually maybe legal mumbo jumbo, but it's correct.
Thank you, sir. Right, in that case, I won't say anymore. Grounds I will incriminate myself. 66. Any motion but if you don't move the meeting, it falls by the wayside automatically. Are we happy with that? had is if somebody had proposed it, but then is unfortunately absent due to illness, that 627 strike is a little bit dangerous in those circumstances. Because if you know, somebody breaks a leg the day before a meeting and is in hospital, on earth can they propose deferral? Christina?
Would they not delegate the proposal of the motion to one of their colleagues?
They might.
But a colleague, anyone else could actually move the motion.
Mm.
If you propose a motion and put it in and you're not at the meeting,
Someone else
I
can pick it up.
could stand up and say I would move that motion be
Okay.
put to the meeting.
If we're content, right? Go 628. Are we content with that?
I think so,
it's
because
sensible.
it is sensible, under the terms of reference and schedule of delegation, the council can't consider matters which have been delegated to a committee.
But they can't
unless
override them.
unless the chair deems it a matter of urgency.
Right. Okay.
Which is, I think is important.
Right.
I mean, the exception is one of urgency, but that's catered for, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
So if there was a planning application which couldn't wait for the next planning committee,
Yeah.
either you have an extraordinary meeting of the planning committee or you just put it
Or
before
you put it
council.
before the council.
Right. I need to leave in about 9 minutes.
Do we want to stop there then?
Is 6.3 likely to be contentious? Then I'd rather crack on if we can. Just would say that I will propose a meeting for a week's time if people are in agreement with that. Yeah.
All being well?
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yes.
Yes.
10:30?
10:30.
Is that not good? You're
Huh?
hesitating.
Yeah, no.
I've
I'm all right.
just got to check with my social calendar, you see. That's going to be the 29th, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Can do. 10:30 on the 29th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll ask the town clerk again. And presumably the noise level today hasn't been so bad, has it? Right. Okay. Bashing on then for another few minutes. 6.3. Anything in 6.3? Rules of debate.
A Dutch person once asked me why we have this thing about proposing and seconding. I said, it's pure convention as far as I can see.
I think it is pure convention, yes.
Do we want to chuck it out or what? And have a barney about it? Believe me, I think you'll have a barney about it. The 6.3.3 starts getting a bit complicated again, doesn't it? 3. Once proposed that any member may request an amendment. The proposer may only propose withdrawal or amendment of the motion if agreed by the seconder. Seconder.
That probably makes sense.
Yeah, it does to me.
I think that makes sense.
Yes. Set out on the road.
Six, three, seven
Yes.
needs altering, we don't have a council behaviour policy, do we?
Not yet.
Are we
We've
going
got
to,
40 said, yeah.
we need to take that out? Are we likely to have a behaviour policy?
That's not the person to ask. Christina?
Is that not the code of conduct?
I thought it would be the code, yeah. Oh, and why do we need to mention it again, Lisa?
I would just change the wording to code of conduct if that's what, if it's relevant.
This code of conduct, we only need members after the protocol, because code of conduct is covered.
Do you want the relevant principles in?
So they're containing our
This is the code of
they're containing the code of conduct,
Yeah.
so to cover all of them.
That's right. Yeah.
Hmm?
Sorry, is it off or is it to each other? Members in 637, members and other individuals will conduct themselves appropriately and respectfully of each other, to each other, respectfully of or
To each other.
And having intention of the code of conduct.
I suggest we leave it in, because it then gives the chair to say, hang on a minute, the code of conduct says this, we're not adhering to it first.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. I don't understand 69.
I think that's very important.
Is it?
Well, it would have been important with the previous council,
Oh, yeah.
because there were several councils who had a habit of saying, point of order.
This is
And
going
it was not a
on.
point of order, but it was a way of getting him to speak. And the chair should say, point of order,
thank you.
yeah, make sure that it's ending.
Yeah.
If you come to a person, standing order,
Yeah.
in a point of order.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very
Thank you. Now that it's clear. Yeah.
Okay, is that
I'm happy to
drawing stumps? So we're going to draw stumps there, are we, gentlemen?
Yes, four stars.
The chairman needs to read.
You'll still be forward though. I could appoint another chair, couldn't I?
Shall I switch off?
Sorry?
Are we done?
I think we are
I
done.
think we are.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Christine.